Many times clients or their family members contact my office about a detention hearing. A detention hearing is a bail hearing in New Jersey where the judge will determine whether or not the defendant will be released back into the public or if they will remain incarcerated for the period that their case is going on. Okay? So the way a case starts is someone gets arrested. Within 24 to 48 hours of their arrest on a warrant, their bail will be reviewed. Okay? At the bail review, the prosecutor's office will consent to their release or move for detention. If the prosecutor's office moves for detention, that means they are asking the judge to hold the defendant while the case is going on. If the prosecutor's office moves for detention, there's nothing that a defense attorney can do. There's nothing that the judge can do. This is totally the prerogative of the prosecutor's office. So if a defendant is held and the state moves for detention, the detention hearing usually will be held within 5 days of the bail review. Okay, so we're talking about 1 to 2 days for the initial review and then another 5 days before the detention hearing is held. At the detention hearing, the state will argue that the defendant is a flight risk and a danger to the community and that they should be remanded. During the point of the bail review and the detention hearing, probation will conduct a public safety assessment known as a PSA, which will be provided to the judge, the state, and the defense attorney. The defendant will be graded on a scale of 1 to 6 for two main things. 1, whether or not they will appear in court, and 2, whether or not they are a danger to the community. They will look to see if the person has ever failed to appear in court before, where they live, their ties to the community, things like that. The second thing they will look at is, are they a danger based on, do they have a prior criminal history, the nature of the underlying offense, is it a violent crime or a possessory crime, et cetera, et cetera. So based on those numbers, if it's a low level scale on the scale of 1 to 6, that's great. If it's a higher level scale, then it's going to be harder for the defendant to be released at the detention hearing. Based on the PSA and probation's recommendation, the judge will make a decision. Okay, first the prosecutor's office will argue why the person should be remanded, the nature of the crime, the serious penalties they're facing, their prior criminal history, and whether or not they are a flight risk. The defense will also argue that the person has good character. They may typically, as defense attorneys, we will submit a package before the hearing with some character letters, some proof of employment, showing what the person was doing. If there's a victim involved, if it's a domestic violence case, that victim may get on the record and say that they want the person released, or they may get on the record and say they want the person held. These will all be factors that the judge will consider when determining whether or not to release the defendant. Recently, New Jersey got rid of financial money bail. Okay, we don't have money bail anymore where you need to post $50,000 for someone to be released from jail, for example. Now, the judge can impose conditions. So if the state is asking for the person to be detained and the person is detained, then that's the end of the hearing. But if the judge wants to release the defendant, they will release the defendant on certain conditions. It can be low level, PML1, PML2, PML3. Those are the low levels. And then 4 is detained. So PML1 is usually only phone reporting, however often, maybe once a week, once a month. Second can be phone reporting and in-person reporting, things like that. Third option, the most serious, is usually a house arrest or a bracelet where they may confine the defendant. They may let him just go to work or school. They may put a curfew on him that he can only be out of the house certain hours, things of that nature. But it gives the judge a lot of discretion to release the defendant with certain conditions and monitoring if he wants to, he or she wants to, or otherwise the defendant will be detained. If you need assistance with a detention hearing in New Jersey, contact my office. We can assist you anytime for a free consultation.